Okay, YouTubers and space detectives, today we are looking at this image from Apollo 11. Now, this was taken back in 1969, 50 years ago, almost to the day, not quite. And we have a really nice quality, high-res image taken from the Apollo 11 craft as it flew around the moon. This is on the near side of the moon, not the far side, where the Chang'e 4 has just landed. And this is in good detail. Now you can see the Earth in the background. This isn't pasted on, okay? This isn't fake. This is real, okay? I'm not even going to get into that argument. If you think the Earth is flat and we've never been out of the Earth's atmosphere, then you really should not be on this channel, okay? So I'll leave it at that. Now the part of the image that I'm concentrating on today is the bottom left corner here. We've got this crater down here. Okay, let's zoom in a bit. And there it is. This is the area. We've got this little crater, well, not small. This crater is probably about a mile across, or at least I would say about a mile or half a mile in diameter. And we've got this strange structure sticking up above it and going into it. There's also some other weird things here. In this area, we've got something here, a very large rectangular structure. Now you can't see these very well at the moment, but I promise you, you will in a minute. And we've got a row of other rectangular structures along this ridge line. And there's also some weird stuff slightly further up here, like what looks like some kind of bridge or something as well, okay? And there's also other rectangular structures in here. Now, these are kind of big block-shaped buildings. And this is the image here. I'll just read what it says here. This is a view from the Apollo 11 spacecraft, and shows the Earth rising above the moon's horizon. The lunar terrain pictured in the area of Smythe's Sea on the near side. Yeah, so it's in the area of Smythe's Sea, which is this kind of dark patch here. So, I do recommend you download this. I've also got it on Flickr as well. The Flickr version of the image is here. Now, this is exactly the same photograph, but it's got the borders still on it and it hasn't been cropped. But it's also much brighter, and you can't really see a lot of these details very well at all in this image because it's got less contrast. Now, this was probably because of the way this was scanned. This was scanned at a different resolution. This is 300 pixels per inch, and the other image from the NASA site is 72 pixels per inch, okay, PPI, but they are the same size image, so they got the same amount of pixels in them. But the better one is this darker one here because we've got better definition, better contours, better shadows, and you can see the shapes much more clearly. So you don't need to enhance this much. So the area I'm going to show you today is down here. And we have that strange thing sticking up there, okay, out of that crater. We've also got these structures here. You can't see them very well until you start adding contrast. Now, first, the crater structure. Here's a raw clip. Now, this doesn't look much when you see it like this because we've gone in quite close and you can't see much definition, but you can see these square things here. And there's a sort of rectangular things coming down into the crater. So let's get the enhanced one. And this is where I've really played with the contrast to bring out these details. And you can actually see that we've got rectangular structures here and what looks like something going down into the crater, and this thing built on or constructed on the side of the crater and comes right up to here. Now, this very bright thing on top may be the top of it, but actually what it could be is the edge of a crater behind this structure. So this very bright thing may not be joined to this. It's hard to say either way. It's difficult to say, but what is interesting is we've got these kind of rectangular parts here kind of joined together, and it's kind of going into this crater here, like a mining structure or something. And we've got other block structures joined to it, okay? Very interesting. So let's go to the next one. I took another clip of the same area, and this is when I spotted those other buildings. Here's the raw clip. Now we've got that crater I just showed you there, which is on the up on the right there, and then we've got this row of buildings down here. You can make them out. This is the raw clip, so they're definitely there. And then that massive rectangular structure with square internal parts to it is there, and you can even see that in the raw image. Once you know it's there, you may need to squint or let your eyes adjust a little bit. You may need to tilt your screen a little bit as well, but it's there. It's definitely there. Let me show you the enhancement of that. Now, I've added a color filter to this just so I know that it's the finished item. So what I normally do with the finished item is I add a color filter so I can differentiate it from the other enhancements I've done. And you've got these buildings here. You've got that crater up there. You can see that structure sticking up. These blocks with the very bright part on top, which may be behind. You've got this very odd looking dome thing here, but it's very vague here. I can't really get any detail out of that. But because these have got shadow behind them, you can actually see the shapes of these here. See that? Sticking up. So you've got this upright kind of dark line here. Now that's in both images. That's in the image on Flickr and the other image we're looking at today. So both source images have the same details in. Just one of them slightly darker than the other, basically. These are definitely there. We got this massive structure here, okay? See that? Now, it looks like it's ruined, and a lot of these things are a bit vague, but when you actually play with the contrast, they jump out at you. So there we are, that was really cool. Now we've got this other area here. This is very vague, but we've got that structure sticking out, a double structure in this crater, which is just above that crater I showed you earlier. Let's go to the enhanced clip. We got that large rectangular structure there and a crater with a kind of double structure inside it, which has parts to it as well. So these things are massive. The scale of these things is absolutely enormous. We've got over here, there seems to be another structure there, which is quite dark, and a couple here and there behind it. There's a whole bunch of them here, and this massive one here. Now, obviously, when you zoom in real close, it breaks up, because I've added a lot of contrast to this, and it will actually make the image start to break up. So you've got to be careful how far you go with the contrast, because you've got to be careful you're not actually just enhancing JPEG artifacts and stuff like that. You've got to do it very carefully. Okay, so there was that one. That was interesting, that one sticking out there. What we've got here are some more square structures, but they're pretty vague, and I think I've gone a bit too close here. Let's go to the enhanced clip. But you can see something here sticking up. Now, as other researchers have claimed, that some of these structures may be sort of translucent or semi-translucent, and they're made of the sort of glass-like material that is all over the surface of the moon, and some of it's quite reflective, and this is one of the reasons you can't see the stars when you look at moon images, is because the shutter speed on the camera is very, very short, because the surface is very bright. This means that you don't pick up tiny little dots of light in the sky, in space, because the shutter speed is too short to pick them up. This is why you can't see the stars. And in fact, even if you stood on the surface of the moon, it's highly unlikely that you would see any stars, or very, very few, because the glare from the surface would actually make your eyes dilate, and you wouldn't be able to pick them up. Okay, in the same way as a camera would work. So there was that. That wasn't very clear, that one. But when I was looking at that, I spotted something up behind it. Now, this is another clip of what looked like a row of buildings here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly maybe 6 or 7. And in fact, the more I look at it, the more I'm seeing. Now, I'm only concentrating on the larger ones here, because basically, if you look too hard at these things, you start seeing them everywhere. And I'm not sure all of them are actually buildings, of course. But you can actually see it in the raw image there, okay? Let's go to one of the enhancements here, and then there we have it. We've got a row of them. 1, 2, 3, possibly one there, 4, 5 maybe there. There's another one. It's going a bit closer. Very interesting. And there was another interesting detail here, this kind of circular, semicircular kind of shape just there. Do you see that? Very interesting. So I'll put clips of all these in a minute at the end of the video, so you can have a really good look at these and take screenshots if you like. But this was the clearest because this is probably the largest one in the area, and it's really quite astonishing because not only do we have a rectangular structure, but it has kind of square and rectangular parts, internal parts as well, as if these are sort of columns or separate parts to it, you know, internal parts. Very interesting. And here's the clip I'm going to put on the cover. That's just a small clip, but that's been brightened right up. And what's interesting is we've got this circular part to it there, just there. There's the roof structure, and it's got this internal square and another square part there and another square part there. But this kind of circular part here, almost like as if it's like a big satellite dish or something on the side of it. It's absolutely crazy. So there we are. This is the one that I put on the cover. That's just a clip of that there. It's a clip of this. I just took a clip from there like that. Okay, but that's the most interesting part. You can see this long straight thing, which just then goes up like this, and then there's these details here. Now you can't see any of that really until you add contrast, like this. Let's go to this one first. Okay, you add contrast, and then you can see this long structure with a kind of bridge-like thing here. And if you look really carefully, you can see these separate structures here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've got these kind of upright structures coming up here or coming down here like this. And we've got this kind of bridge, and it comes along. It's almost like this is like a transport system, like a tube or something. Very interesting. But there's some interesting structures here, just here, and you can see separate parts to it. So let me show you the final enhancement of that, because I had to play with that. It was really difficult to get this detail to come out because it's much darker in this part of the image. But you can see this long structure and a kind of humpback sort of bridge type thing, and you can just about make out those upright kind of parts here, like pipes or something. I don't know what those are, but it's segmented. We have these segments here, see? I've had to brighten that up quite a lot, and you're getting a lot of distortion in here, but a lot of this stuff looks artificial, and we've got kind of square and rectangular parts, especially here. That's about it really. What I'm going to do is put all these in sequence for you. Let's have a look at that one again, because this is the first thing I spotted. This was crazy. Now I estimate this to be maybe a mile across. So this thing's massive, absolutely massive. And you can see those details quite clearly when you zoom in even. Okay, I've sharpened that up a bit. This was one of the clearer bits because it's so big and sticks up, and it's kind of highlighted because it's darker behind, so you can actually see the shapes of it better. So that was really cool. I mean, this is absolutely packed with stuff, and there is loads and loads more in the area, but I've only really picked out the first and larger things that I've found. But when you start looking carefully, there's some really, I mean, there's a long straight part here, what's going on there. That bridge-like structure is up here. You've got that long diagonal line, and then it goes over the hump, and you can't see it in the raw image. You've got to really brighten it up. There we are. You can see it there, and there's that bridge thing. So it's all there, but you've just got to play with the contrast, as I showed. And incidentally, if you want to learn how to do this, it's really, really simple. I've got a tutorial kind of playlist on my channel. It's called Image Tutorials Revealing Mars and Moon Structures. It's just basically, if you go through these, they all contain lots of information on how I just play with the contrast with these images and how I get some of these structures to show. It's not difficult to do. Anyone can do it. You don't even need Photoshop, just a basic graphics program will do the job. And also, please come along to my new channel. It's called Space Detective 1. I only started this channel very recently, about a month ago, and I'm almost up to 1,000 subscribers, so please come along and check it out. There's loads of crazy stuff on here, and a lot of these things a lot of people haven't seen. A lot of it's Mars stuff, but there's moon stuff as well, and I'm trying to get this up to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm nearly there, so please come along and sub. I'm not asking you to watch anything. Just click the subscribe button if you can. That would be very helpful, and it will help this channel a lot. Okay, YouTubers, space detectives, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Now a quick game of interplanetary I Spy going on here about the moon, and in particular this image from Apollo 11. Now this was taken before there was a landing on the moon, as they flew over the moon and around it at about a height of around 50 miles. It's not that close to the surface, so the things we're going to be looking at on the surface are quite a long way down, and we're only able to see the very largest structures. The smaller structures are not really visible because the level of zoom and everything isn't really enough to actually look at them. Okay, now this was taken from the Apollo spacecraft, showing Earth rising above the moon's horizon, which is up there. The lunar terrain picture is in the area of Smythe Sea on the near side. So you can download this and check this out yourself. It's a good high quality image. It's about 4 megabytes, and let's get on with it and I'll show you what I've seen. Now these details that I showed in the first video are mainly on the bottom left corner of the image. What I'm going to show today is in the center right of the image. So it's the same image and similar massive structures on the surface. We've got the usual craters and stuff like that. Let me play a little bit of that. We've got the usual craters and features here. But when you really play with the contrast in these images, all you have to do is play with the contrast. You will start to see some of these huge rectangular structures. Some of them are really clear, even in the raw image. And you don't even have to do anything. But a simple bit of contrast is all you need. And up the darkness, up the brightness, and these things will pop out straight in front of you in your graphics processing software. Now, this is what it looks like raw. This has only been enlarged. It has not been touched in any other way. It's just been enlarged. And the area I did in part one was down here by this crater. There's a big kind of square structure there, multiple blocks on top of each other there. And that building I just showed you, the big rectangular building is down here. What you have to do is add a load of contrast and it will start to jump out at you, like so, okay? And immediately when you do that, right next to this big ramp-like thing, you've got this bright kind of circular crater or whatever that is, and then you've got a really large square building just there. So let me go back to the raw image. There we are. You can even see it in the raw image. You've got a perfect right angle there, and it comes round, and we've got this kind of weird line here and some structures around here. Let's go darker again. There we are. Now I'm going to brighten it as well. This is how easy it is. It's really quite easy to do. Let's do that a couple of times and then see what happens. There we are. Now we can see it. We've got this giant rectangle here. Now it's on the slope, so but the top of it is square. It's basically square, but it's on the kind of coming down this slope here. We've got another structure here. We've got this thing here, and some structures here. We've got another structure here, and up on top, you can just about make out that there is a structure on top of this kind of mound, or you've got a ramp going up from just below this square thing, this massive square block. The ramp goes up, and then we've got a sort of crater type structure, but there's something in there. There's structures inside it which are kind of rectangular or kind of like a step pyramid like shape just there. And there's also multiple structures around this. So what I'm going to do, also I'll show you some of the stuff over here. There's some weird structures over here. You've got to really play with the contrast. There's what initially appears like a crater here, but with something sticking up out of it, like a big, massive block-like structure as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the clips I've done, because otherwise it would take too long to enhance every little part in real time. So what I'll do is I'll show you each crop that I've taken. I've got the raw image here, then I'm going to flick through. Here's the main part that I was interested in with the square structure here, right near the center there. And there's that ramp going up. This is completely raw. Okay, so let's go darker. This is what I just showed you. Let's go darker again and closer. There we are. Now what I've done here is really carefully worked the contrast to bring these structures out more. I've brightened it a bit and I've darkened it, and I've used the clarify tool on my software, which you should get a similar thing on Paint Shop. Or, I mean, sorry, on Photoshop. I don't use Photoshop. Paint Shop's got a thing called Clarify, which actually brings stuff out quite well. It's just kind of, you just set it to number 1 or 2, and that's what it does. It basically increases the contrast. It's like a smart contrast. You've got this structure that comes right round here. This is raised, this whole area. There's a kind of triangle. I've just noticed this. There's a sort of line there, which is like a sort of triangular thing. There's that sort of crater thing with a sort of step pyramid, almost like a ziggurat shaped structure there, with another structure next to it. And we've got these multiple structures here, which are stuck up, and they're kind of rectangular. There's another one here, a bit like a building, and there's another one here. There's a rectangular structure there. There's the main one that caught my eye initially, which is square, with some smaller structures behind it. We've got this weird sort of ovoid shaped kind of thing here. I don't know what that is. And some kind of block-like structures stacked on top of each other there. And we've got another structure here by the side of this kind of big mound with a kind of semicircular part to it here. Very odd indeed. It's really hard to work out what these things are. Now, of course, a lot of this may be natural, of course, because this is the moon. But would they have rectangular structures like this naturally occurring on the surface of the moon? I don't think so. Perfectly within the bounds of reasonable exploration, as usual. So that was the really interesting bit. There's another clip here of that larger area. Now, I will put these clips in at the end, as I usually do, and show them all again, so you can take screenshots if you like. Now, this is the raw clip of the larger area with the craters And I'm just going to flick through these now. Now, this is quite vague, but if you look carefully, let your eyes adjust. We've got some what look like craters or kind of different levels here, and raised areas with very large structures sticking up out of them, like here. We've got something there. It's a bit vague, but something sticking up there, a very bright rectangular structure there, sticking up. Similar to the one in part 1, that is. It's long and rectangular with square inner parts, like as if it's got columns on the outside. Very interesting. I will do some closer up clips of these for you in a minute and put them in at the end. There's a rectangular structure here with a square structure on top of it. When you start looking at this stuff, there's loads of it, but you've got to let your eyes adjust because it is difficult to see initially. If you're not used to looking at moon images, you've got to really kind of let your eyes adjust and take your time, look slowly. There's another structure here sticking out of this crater. There's multiple ones in this one. A lot of these so-called craters have got buildings in them, which are kind of rectangular and square, a lot of them, and they stick up like big blocks, like tower blocks. There's a row of them here. I will do some more clips of that and darken it a bit more so you can see that. They're not amazingly clear, those. There's also this weird crater as well, which I thought has got something weird on the side of it here. Let's go through the... That's been darkened so you can see. There looks like a weird structure on the side of this crater. And you've got these angular kind of striations coming out, which look fairly normal, but it's very angled, I suppose. There's a weird thing here, like a box, like a weird sort of bright coloured structure on the side here, and another one here. Very odd indeed. And this looks like it's kind of set into the side of the crater there, as if there's something dug into it, like a structure. Very odd. And there's other structures behind, but I can't really make out what they are. They're too vague. There's some little rectangular structures up here. And there's some other structures here. There's one there, a couple there, but they're not that clear. But this was weird. So I'm not going to spend ages going through all this. I'm basically just giving you a basic idea where to look in the image and what parts to enhance and actually concentrate on. There we are. There's some weird stuff there. But the main bit was the first one with a big ramp going up onto this mound with structures on top of it. You've got a kind of triangular structure there. I didn't really notice that until this minute or this last few minutes. When I initially enhanced this, I didn't notice that up there. I was more concentrating on this stuff down here and trying to work out what it is. You've got a semicircle there, you've got a structure sticking up, another kind of rectangular structure, rectangle structure here. There's smaller rectangular structures behind. It's like a whole complex here, like some sort of mining complex or something like that. So let's look at the bigger area of that, because there's one that's further back and it shows more of the other things below. There's more structures below here, sticking up. There's something there. I mean, some of this may be natural, of course. But the weird thing is, with these photographs, they're not like modern digital photographs because they're taken on a real camera. So what you've got is a different type of grain to the picture. In other words, when you make the photographs or the slides, they're made up of tiny, tiny grains of silver oxide, I think it is. And so they're like little tiny grains or flakes, smaller than the size of a piece of dust, perhaps. They're minuscule, and there's millions of them in an image, and they kind of sit on the surface of the photograph and form the pigment and react when the photo's developed. So it's not the same as a modern digital photograph. So what you're seeing, you don't tend to get the same sort of pixelation as you do with modern photographs, because these aren't modern photographs. These are taken with real cameras. They're high quality, and there's some amazing structures here. Now, they're not supposed to be rectangle, square block buildings on the moon, but there are. I've shown many in many videos before. Other people have shown them as well, and they're all over the place. Some of these craters are absolutely littered with structures, And this thing at the back here looks like it's kind of joined up to all this. I'll take some more clips and I'll do a few more enhancements and close-ups and try and clarify this a little bit more for you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please go over to my new channel, Space Detective 1, if you haven't already, and subscribe if you haven't. And please share this on social media. And as I said before, if you do have ad blocker, please turn it off. It really does help. I'm not saying you have to watch any adverts. Just skip them after 3 seconds like I do. But it does help because I do get a tiny, tiny bit of revenue even if you skip an advert. And it all helps this channel. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.